We are recording again. Um, so let me ask you this question. Well, welcome to part B. Those who've just joined us, it's part B. We're here with Jessie, and uh, I'm trying to figure out her type. So let me ask you some. I know you've probably read all kinds of stuff about cognitive function, so it's tricky for me to ask you questions because I know you might sense where I'm trying to go, and that's maybe counterintuitive to the process. But um, would you say though that you prefer to have things like predictable, or do you prefer when things, uh, or do you prefer not to be boxed in basically by
Uh,
plans or whatever?
it's definitely naturally I would be like I like doing things on a whim like I like having like an open schedule. I'm not a person who's used to keep a schedule. I had to get used to that when especially when I started freelancing,
Yeah.
and that was like a learned habit.
Hmm.
But but what do you mean by like boxed in and like having things to be predictable? Can you like specify?
um, well, I think like some people want to have a planned out plan, basically, um, or at least kind of, let's see. The way I would say it is, if I had to say there's a spectrum, like some people want things very rigidly planned out, like they want to plan.
Oh no,
They
that's not me.
then there's people who want to plan out the guardrails so they can improvise within those guardrails. And then there's other people who want zero guardrails and want to just completely improvise everything. So that's kind of how I would see the spectrum.
All right, I see. Um, I don't like I don't like the idea of like I mean my life has not turned out the way I wanted it to at all. So I feel like that's kind of playing a factor in like how things are going, but like reflecting on like how I am like day to day when I am doing things, I'm usually very on the whim. Like there are a few things I plan like, oh, I'm gonna do some like especially if I'm at home, it's a lot easier to like plan things out and try to do them.
Hmm.
But if like a friend's like, oh, let's want to hang out today, and I'll be like, yeah, sure, of course. If I have nothing else going on, but or if there's something like that I think is not as interesting, I might drop that in favor of hanging out with a friend.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? I don't know if that answered your question at all.
Kind of. Um, what about how organized are you as a person?
Um, everyone else around me thinks I'm not organized, but I think I have like,
They think you're unorganized or think you're organized?
I mean, I know where things generally are, so I lose things a lot.
Did you say that people around you think that you're organized or think that you're not organized?
They think compared to, well, I'm like the unorganized one compared to them, basically.
Okay. And why
So
why
I'm the,
why would they say that?
well, I like having my things like sprawled out. I'm not like, oh, I gotta put this away at like 2 o'clock or like so
Uh-huh.
sometimes it takes me a while to do like put away laundry or like
Mhm.
I have a general idea of what like where things are, but I do lose things all the time.
Mhm.
I've lost my phone at least 5 times this year. I lose like things like not really like straightener, but like maybe like hair products
Mhm.
or like chargers,
Would you
things like that.
would you say that you have memory problems?
Yeah, definitely. Especially if I'm not. Some things like for some reason I remember certain things if I feel like they're just somehow like significant in my mind. Otherwise, it's hard for me to memorize things. Usually, like I don't know. Sometimes it's like easy. Sometimes it's like hard.
Yeah, okay. Um,
Sometimes the gap, there's like a bridge, and there's like two cliffs, and like sometimes there's just not a bridge. That's closest metaphor I can come up with, I guess. I don't
yeah,
know.
okay. Speaking of metaphors, how would you, how about, how would you create a metaphor for what the quarantine has been like so far?
um, it's kind of like being a zombie apocalypse, I'd say. No, except without this kind. Yeah, kind of actually, because the way people treat like the disease, you might as well. You kind of think there are zombies out there. Everyone's kind of like tiptoeing around. Like
Yeah.
you have to be boxed inside. Everyone's defending themselves. That's probably really cliche metaphor, but like,
Okay. Now create a metaphor using animals.
okay. I'd say it's kind of like we're living on the Galapagos Islands or like Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Does that?
Why would you say that?
Because it's like we're dealing with this new danger that we don't know how to face, like a
Hmm.
new crisis that's unprecedented. Yeah.
Okay. Now, could you create a metaphor using household objects?
Uh, kind of feels like someone is like having. I don't know if this would be a good. Okay, like God's throwing a temper tantrum and he's just throwing all of his appliances and utensils on the kitchen floor. Does that make sense? Is
Okay.
that
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's
like
good.
these are weird? I know. I'm sorry.
No, no, these are good. Um, okay. Let me let me ask you this question. Do you think that you have how well acquainted are you with your own emotions? Do you understand your own emotions, or are you perplexed by your own emotions?
At first, when I was younger, I used to be a lot more like unaware, but as I've gotten older
Mhm.
and I've started advocating for myself, I've started to notice my emotions a little more
Mhm.
and how like I react to certain things, and I'm like, oh, I feel this way, and I just kind of use the mentality that it's like okay, like whatever I feel, it's I feel it for a reason.
Mhm.
It's not like wrong or right,
Sure.
but I'm not gonna be like, oh, like you should change your opinion or like you guys should like fix this because I don't like it. I'm like, well, I'm it's just something I have to deal with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sensitive to other people's feelings?
Uh, I don't know about their. What do you mean by sensitive? Because like usually I try to keep like harmony in like a group setting, and that's what I kind of like. But like when it comes to other people's feelings, I don't like immediately empathize. I kind of empathize with them. Like I could be like, oh, sorry, I understand what you're going through.
Mhm.
But I feel like I kind of have to go through the pain first, and because I feel like whatever each person experiences is subjective and unique to them. So I'm just like, oh, I can't completely understand what you're feeling, but I'm there for you, kind of thing. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Does that even make? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Um, do you um, do you tend to see people through a lens of universal human experience, or as completely unique, um, completely unique experiences? I guess. Which way do you lean on that spectrum?
I say it depends on like how you're trying to perceive people. Like if I'm trying to like group people in real quickly, I could say, or like I don't know, like a country's like a national identity. You can like kind of describe that as a person, I guess, and like the kind of experiences they go through. This is not making sense. I'm so sorry,
No, it's okay. I'm asking you some
but
very
like
abstract questions, so.
yeah. So like if I feel like if you need to group people quickly, you could use like oh like all these people combined to like create this like single consciousness that kind of like shape like a group of people. But if we're talking like the if we're talking about like on like a day-to-day basis, I usually focus on individuals and try to see them separately. Like I'm like I understand that like oh like people are going to face similar things and they're going to cause different reasons like different things whatever. But I feel like it'll manifest itself differently for each person.
Yeah. Okay. Are you much of a handyman? How good are you with like tools and stuff?
Really bad.
Okay. So if you had to like put together furniture, would you be like,
No,
not a
no,
fan of
I would
that?
not do that because first off, I wouldn't be able to follow the instructions,
Okay.
and then second, I'm just really I'm bad at anything that involves my hands usually.
Okay. That's good to know. Um,
I just don't have like spatial awareness. It's just non-existent.
sure, sure, sure. Um, okay. I think I am getting closer. I think I'm getting closer. So Um, I'm I feel like I'm very close, and I need to kind of like prove it wrong, basically. Okay, take something. Tell me something you believe in strongly.
Mm, I think everyone is entitled to happiness.
Okay. Now,
However, it is like if like look on
no, go ahead. You finish the thought.
like if someone wants to take like a route that's like not financially like stable, but it brings them like like makes them happy and allows them to live like their like fullest quality of life, then I think they should totally go for it.
Hmm.
Because you live, I guess you live once, and if you believe that, then you might as well live it the way you want to live it.
Now, give me logical reasons for why you believe that.
Um, I guess, I guess, like from a logical perspective, like from a practical perspective, I guess, like increasing your quality of life. I guess
Okay.
I think it allows you to see like what you want for yourself more clearly.
Hmm.
So like if you're like in a space where you can't thrive, you're not going to be able to think clearly. You're not going to be at the top of your game. You for the most part. If you're anything like me,
What do
I
you
think a
think?
lot of people are like, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead. Continue. You think a lot of people are what?
I already lost my train of thought. It's okay.
How do you think you're different than most people?
I really don't think I'm different, honestly,
Why do you say that?
because we're all people with experiences and like a story behind us, I guess.
Hmm.
And I don't see myself as different. Like, I mean, I see myself as separate from another person. That's like the extent of it.
Do you think that you think a different way than most people think?
Sometimes I think about that when I'm in like I want to feel better about myself, but I know like at the end of the day that's probably not true. Like there are probably a lot of people who think like me. Like I've met them and it's taken a while. It didn't take me until like college until I like met those people.
Hmm.
But like yeah, for like the first portion of my life, I was not surrounded by people who like thought like me, so I thought I was like alone basically. And then I started meeting those people and I started becoming more energized and like things
Hmm.
like that, more confident like what I like how I think and things like that,
Hmm.
like my interests and things like that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like
Yeah. How long of an attention span do you have? If there's a spectrum and short is like a squirrel, and long is like you can patiently wait somewhere for hours without any trouble. Or can
Uh,
you?
no, definitely not. Without my phone,
Sorry, you just cut out there. Could you repeat that?
without my phone, maybe like minutes. Then I'm just like, okay. Without my phone, with my phone, probably like 10 minutes. Without my phone, probably less, honestly, because I'm just like the kind of person who's bouncing between apps. I have 5,000 tabs open.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I find it's hard for me to like kind of like not that like what do I do? For me, like even like reading's a difficult for me. Like I enjoy reading, but it's like requires so much mental like focus.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that you are an energy conservationist when it comes to your own energy? Are you trying to do things for the minimal amount of energy that you have to do them in?
Uh yeah, honestly.
I'm sorry, you cut out there. What was it?
Like physical energy
Either physical or mental.
or like mental energy.
Both. Both. Yeah.
The thing is, I've never feel energized anymore. I'm just so drained. Like I don't feel like how I used to feel anymore.
Is this since the quarantine started, or since a certain time prior?
Like when I was unemployed, absolutely miserable because I could not force myself to do anything because I was just like everything was the same. Like it was just very difficult for me to like work. I was in like physical pain just from like being like still all day. It's just like I don't even know. When I have things to do, I'm more like willing to be like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, like regardless of like the energy.
Mm-hmm.
But in other respects, I'm pretty lazy too.
How are you lazy?
Uh, I don't. I mean, I do like cooking. I like the concept of cooking, but when it comes to physically doing it, it's just hard. And
Yeah. Okay.
then like planning everything is hard, and
Yeah. 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 All right. I think I know what type
it
you
doesn't
are.
turn out the way it does.
I think I know what type you are.
This is gonna scare me.
I have to write
All
it down
right.
though, so that it can be a big exciting reveal.
It's probably gonna be a type I don't want to be.
It might be a type you don't want to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a type a lot of people don't want to be.
Oh, great.
Sorry. It's also a type a lot of people think they are. All right, what do you think I'm gonna? What do you think's
I
gonna
don't
happen?
know.
Go ahead.
I guess honestly, because everyone's like, "Oh, you're probably an INFP." I'm like, okay.
Is that what other guesses do you have? INFP.
I don't like making guesses because they scare. I don't like being wrong, honestly. It's maybe ENFP, but I'm also expecting something like a sensor type or like an SJ type. So ISFJ or like ISTP, like I would be like, okay. Like I would be surprised, but also at the same time not surprised.
Would you say that you like to look into the void?
Uh, what do you mean? Like just like
What do you think I mean?
uh, I think the void is just like kind of like a playground where you could do like a bunch of things, I guess. So if it means I get to do things and like create things, I guess I enjoy the void. I like the unpredictable. I like the unknown. I like novel. I like. This sounds so cliche,
No,
but
it sounds exactly like what an INFJ would say.
okay, yeah,
Because I'm an INFJ, and those are all things I would say.
okay,
So that's my opinion. I don't
okay,
run into them very often, so you know. But I wouldn't throw that around very often either.
okay. Yeah, I know INFJs are like rare.
Yeah. Well, all intuitive types are less common, but then more common in the MBTI community. So you know,
Yeah,
you do run into them more often just because they're into MBTI.
Yeah,
But
yeah, of course.
um, I'll give you lots of like I had a hunch pretty early on actually, like almost immediately. But then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just like keep going through my process here, and then then I started really having a strong hunch about it, and then I'll just tell you a number of things. Okay, first of all, it's totally an INFJ thing to like recruit people to do the things you don't know how to do. That means you have the ability to do that, which is something INFJs have the ability to do, which is
Yeah,
to make connections with people, to make Kool-Aid, to get them to drink your Kool-Aid, and then to get them motivated to do something you want them to do.
yeah,
It's totally an INFJ thing to do that.
yeah,
Other types struggle with that because that requires having a plan, and
yeah,
it kind of requires like social engineering and um, knowing what right things to say to people just to get them interested in just the right way.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you also struggle a great deal with the physical aspects of life, which I do as well, and lots of other INFJs I've known will to have as well, which is sort of the ability to string together a plan for whatever you're supposed to do physically, putting things together, you know, managing your physical space or whatever, three dimensionality. Um, and you also did pretty well, I'd say, for the most part, on the introverted intuition, which is the convergence test. The tell me the five things in common. You came up with three things really quickly, and then the extroverted intuition test you did really poorly on. So
Really? That's
yeah,
interesting.
so that's why I ruled out like all of your ENTP, ENFP kind of types, and to a lesser degree INFP and INTP,
Yeah,
because they both use extroverted intuition quite a bit too, and they're pretty
it was the
random.
rope, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the rope one. But
Yeah.
you also just don't ramble a lot like extroverted intuitives do. Well, what I mean to say is like you ramble like an NI user, not like an NE user.
Yeah.
An NI user that's rambling is like trying to make sense of what's in their head. An NE user that's rambling is like playing jazz with their words and their ideas and like coming up with all kinds of stuff as they go. So
Mhm.
I just know it because I can hear it. I know when I do it. Both types will ramble, but like they just have a different way of rambling.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course.
and um, poor memory, not necessarily always an indicator that somebody's an NI user or not an SI user, but it's at least a potential clue, as SI users tend to exercise their memory more frequently. It could at least, poor memory can also be a low SI thing like an ENTP, um, but you don't use to me anyways, my opinion. I don't think you use extrovert intuition very much. Um,
Okay.
so you also being able to identify what is good and then finding people to do that even when you don't have the skill, but being able to identify what is good well enough to be able to tell whether that person has done a good enough job is a total NI type of thing. Could say NIFE maybe, or even NITI, but it's like it's an NI it's an NI thing to be able uh, to have this like conceptual measuring stick of like the ideal shape of something, or the not just the shape but like the ideal state of something, and then being able to get other people, that's the FE part, like get other people to do things for you to the point where you can get it into that ideal state. that's
Mhm.
that's like that's the um, cult leader type of ability that INFJs kind of have.
Yeah.
So you might have a little cult leader in you. It's possible.
Nah. That's work. That's work. Yeah.
No, but that's the point, though. The cult leader doesn't do the work. The cult leader
Yeah,
just makes the Kool-Aid and makes sure it's good. That's all you do.
yeah.
That's all you have to do when you're a cult leader is make good Kool-Aid. So, yeah. So in kind of individualism, disdain for for authority things that's something that INFJs. I mean, there's other types too, but introverts in general probably going to feel that way. But also especially TI users are going to feel that way. And your sort of displeasure with people who
Yeah.
say stupid things or whatever um, is also a TI thing as well. Um, at first, I was thinking possibly INTP, but you just didn't exhibit any extroverted intuition. So I was like, I was mostly thinking NITI. That's what I was hearing in you, and then I was like, well, I got to be sure about that because that's really narrow. That's a really narrow set of personality types. So NITI
Hmm.
doesn't seem as common as NITE or NETI. It seems like. Um, all right, so that's my opinion. I don't know. Is that surprising to you, or what do you think? What did you think of INFJs before this, and now that I've proposed it, what do you think now as a possibility?
Uh, I don't know. I don't like being pegged in as introverted. I don't know why. I just hate that association.
Well, it doesn't. It's just more about the cognitive functions than it is
Hmm.
whether you're. Because I mean, INFJs are pretty extroverted. I'm pretty extroverted, like a decent amount of the time. So it's not. I think INFJs and probably INFJs are among the more extroverted introvert types
Yeah.
because they need a they need a following.
Yeah.
They need a group of people to get things done because they can't do it themselves.
Right,
So
right.
so you have to be somewhat charismatic to make it work.
Okay. No, no, I'm like trying to process this because people are like, "Oh, you're quiet." I'm like, "Well, first off, I don't like being quiet because social anxiety. I didn't choose to fucking have social anxiety,
Sure.
so it's
But you
just
might just be
quiet
more
equals shy, meek. I'm like, no, I'm not. None of those things.
right. Yeah, that's I mean all the things you're describing to me sound like a pretty INFJ kind of existence. Is what it sounds like. Uh, Also, this is gonna sound really weird, and like I just can't put my finger on this kind of stuff. But just facial cues, as like the way that you kind of have like a perma frown, which I do too, by the way. And FE users, I've noticed to have this kind of a lot of times. It's like a downward direction at the edges of the mouth.
Yeah,
And FI users almost have like kind of this like like this
the
kind of thing.
opposite. Yeah.
Not all of them, but I mean like that's just a thing I've noticed. Um, and some of your facial expressions I recognized in myself. So weirdly enough, um, facial tics that have to do more with like um, uh, self awareness or something like that, or establishing rapport, and you know what I mean.
Could you
Just
elaborate a little?
I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I guess. Um, yeah, I can't describe it. But I'll say other things about you. Like you have very steady composure. Like your head doesn't move very much. Your your face doesn't move very much. Your eyes move a lot. And so that's why I asked about the conserving energy as well as some other things that you said, because I've noticed this that INFJs um, often feel very fatigued by existing.
Yeah, that's
um,
very true.
just existence is exhausting.
Yeah, just waking up's tired. I wake up, I'm like, oh, I kind of don't want to do today.
And I don't know. I don't know if you're like this. you'll have to tell me if this, because I'll just tell you that I'm like this, which is as an INFJ, which is my mind is just always going like 24/7, like crazy. Do you have that experience, or is it
Yeah,
different
like
for you?
stuff's running in the background. It's like it may not be in the forefront of my attention, but it's like having like a closed like a closed like internet window.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess so. I have to, smoke weed and drink and stuff to kind of slow my brain down a little bit. But, anyways, it's fatiguing to always be thinking about everything. And
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's why I conserve so much energy in my day-to-day life as much as possible because I don't feel like I have much to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
So, um, that's just something I've noticed that other INFJs do that. They often seem very tired and like um,
Tired by life.
just tired living, just tired of living
Yeah.
from the daily living. So, anyways, all right, we're about at time here. So, okay. Last thing. Do you have a question for me? Thanks for
Uh,
answering all my questions.
yeah, no problem. Do you have any good resources? I could just like aside from
Uh,
your channel. Well, I guess I could. Yeah.
sure. Typologygifts.com. No. Well, I guess it depends on what kind of resource you're looking for. So, you've already studied this for 4 years. So,
Yeah.
what do you want me to tell you that you don't already know?
I don't know. How do I stop doubting my type?
Well, okay.
I know that's impossible.
Doubting your type is something that a TI user would do. So we'll start there, because it's this frequent search for the perfect model of something.
Hmm.
So there you go. And then NI as well is going to also do that because NI is not content with what's in front of it, but what's in between the cracks, like
All right.
between the lines. So an NI and a TI user will, for their own reasons, or perhaps if it's an NI-TI user, will both be sort of perhaps upset for a long time trying to figure out what their type is because they won't necessarily accept what an authority says is true, and they won't necessarily accept the first answer that they find.
Hmm.
You see, because it's this endless kind of curiosity, that NI and TI users both share, is
Yeah,
like
that makes more
relentless
sense now that you
curiosity.
explain it.
Yeah, so that's a good clue, I think. Um, also, INFJs are like kind of notoriously fascinated by people and like how people's brains work and like um, how social constructs work and all kinds of similar stuff like that. Like I'm into user. I'm my career is in user experience. So I'm very involved in like why people use interfaces a certain way or whatever. I'm fascinated by how people's brains work, even if it's a
Yeah.
like armchair kind of way. So that's a good clue too, because there's other types out there that just really couldn't care less about that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So, and then you can also look at like how scattered are you, or do you get are you more likely to get tunnel vision, or are you more likely to go too scattered and can't tell which way is up? The tunnel vision one's the NI one. The too scattered one is the NE one. So you've already mentioned a couple of times where you would get in too deep into something or whatever, and that's kind of an NI thing right there.
Okay.
Because
Yeah, it
any
makes a lot more sense when someone else explains it.
Yeah, and any user is going to be more likely to just keep getting sidetracked and never be able to commit to a direction. An NI user is more likely to actually ignore all of the external stuff and just hone in on something so singularly that they're actually blocking out everything else. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to hold you up.
No, that's fine. So no, I just want to help you reach some level of satisfaction, or perhaps, like you said, this sense of not necessarily indecisiveness, but like unable to settle, I guess, on a type. But that is something that I've noticed that specifically I think that INFJs and INTPs do a lot because I think
Just
it's,
can't settle. Yeah.
yeah, I think for different reasons. Like INFJs do it because they they're very good at perspectives and they're very good at seeing things from so many different angles that they can justify almost anything. They could be like Hitler did nothing wrong,
Yeah.
because they could actually justify heinous behavior because they can come up with an angle that works.
Yeah.
And TI users, perhaps from a different perspective, is just that their extroverted intuition can come up with so many possibilities for everything that they don't like to be boxed in necessarily. So then they can spin and spin and spin on their own type because you know that's just how they treat all other information. So is to just continuously spend time thinking about it. So that's there's the there's the two types I think are most likely to do it, and I think you're more like an INFJ than an INTP. So there you go.
Okay.
That's my thoughts on it.
All right.
If that helps.
No, no, it does definitely.
But maybe spend time researching INFJs more seriously and look into it and see if and watch videos of other INFJs and be like, am I like this person? And listen to
Yeah.
what they're saying and see if that fits your experiences. It's all about just comparing your brain to other people's brains, kind of. Like just being like, am I like this brain? Is my brain like that? Is my brain like this? That's as good as you can do. You still have a unique brain. So at the end of the day, you can't be like, well, I'm exactly like this because you're not. So
Yeah.
the closest you can get is like, oh, I'm in some kind of category of something. But it's all a construct anyways, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It matters if you're trying to pick out a gift or trying to resolve some conflict or just get people's ideas on what career path you could take. But other than that, it doesn't really matter a whole lot.
That's true.
What matters is what you do with life.
That's true.
Yeah. So don't get too hung up on it.
Yeah, I didn't plan on it.
Good.
I was curious and I was getting back into like MBTI.
Well, it's fun, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's fun. It's brain candy.
It's something fun to do. So
Yeah, of course.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And it's good for meeting people. It's good for having interesting discussions and learning a little bit about yourself and learning about other people. So there's a lot to gain.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a good time, Jessie. Thanks for the discussion.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yep, for sure. And to those watching, thanks for joining us and have a fun quarantine.
All right.
I hope
Good
you make
night.
it. Let's all make it out alive, right? Don't go protest right now. It's a bad idea. Stay inside. All right. Peace out.